Good morning. I have with me today Suresh Shenoy. Suresh Shenoy is the president of Wheels Global Foundation. Wheels spelled as the regular word Wheels, WHEELS, and an acronym for Water, Health, Energy, Education, Lifestyle, and Sustainability. Okay, and we are hoping to hear his remarks at the next session where he will be speaking and delivering his talk. Looking at his background and his engagement with TEMS, I'd like to ask him a couple of questions. And one of the questions I have in mind is to know from Suresh, what have you learned from TEMS due to your engagement with the Technology and Engineering Management Society?
Well, first of all, thank you very much for giving me this opportunity to talk about Wheels as well as how technology can help philanthropy and to scale philanthropy. I've always said that when you drive a car, for example, you cannot do that by only looking at the rear view mirror. But there is a rear view mirror, so you know where you came from. But you only can drive when you look through the window in front of you. So what lies ahead of you? So I think TEMS is serving a very important function in knowing how technology is evolving, what are the emerging technologies and how they might be applied in different situations. So, and the interesting thing there is that you learn a lot from people who are in the lab as well as people who are in the commercial side who are trying to commercialize this technology. So it's a great networking ground, and I think to be able to sort of take the nuggets that are important to my field in terms of philanthropy, there's an awful lot that I've learned from being part of the TEMS event here. The one thing that I would say is that a lot of our policymakers in Washington, where I come from, Washington DC, have no idea about how artificial intelligence or what is now being called the fourth industrial revolution, what impact it has on policy. So I think TEMS can serve a very important role, as we discussed, we heard people talk about here at the event on matters related to privacy, that personally identifiable information, and some of the cross-border issues about the changing intellectual property and so on. So TEMS is a great organization in that sense, that we are looking ahead and not just in the rear view mirror of what's happened in the past.
Well, thank you very much, Suresh. That's a very, very good perspective and an overall overview of how TEMS should consider moving forward. So from that context, would you recommend TEMS to your colleagues, your employees, your friends in the professional circle, and whosoever you think is appropriate?
Oh, absolutely. I think the word needs to get around, because whether you are in academia or whether you are in industry or even in government, it is so helpful to know where you can mine the rich data that is available on technological innovations. And societies such as IEEE are of course globally renowned, and clearly they have very high standards on how you participate within these organizations. So for any company that wants to be seen as a leader in their field, or any company that is, or any individual who wants to be seen as a forward-thinking leader, they need to come to organizations like TEMS and learn from each other on what's going on in the lab and what's going on in industry, what's happening from a legal perspective and so on. So I think this is I would highly recommend it.
Thank you once again, and that's a very nice way of how the power of collaboration between academia and the industrial world can collaborate to solve problems and find solutions. And I think that's the power of collaboration.
Yes.
So what more would you like to know from TEMS, and what are your expectations of TEMS from a futuristic perspective?
Well, we are in an extremely fast-moving world today. If you look at what happened in our internet second, say last year at this time, versus what is happening today, in 1 second on the internet, there is an explosion of data. There's an explosion of data. And not only that, with new technologies like 5G and robotics and machine learning, etc., we can expect even more. And on top of that, you layer new knowledge that is being discovered every day with things like CRISPR, for example, in the genetic side. You start to realize that the world that my children and my grandchildren are going to grow in is not the same as what it was, when we grew up. And therefore, I think it is very important that that organizations like TEMS, keep that perspective in mind, because what we are discussing here today is not just relevant for you and me, but it is going to be of great relevance on how we bring up our own children and our grandchildren, because that's the world they're going to be living in.
Absolutely, I totally agree with you, Suresh, and that's exactly what we are all trying to achieve and accomplish. And so one day when you sit with your grandson or granddaughter on your lap and then tell them, what did you do? Well, we're looking after their future.
Just to sort of expand on that a little bit, at the World Economic Forum, someone suggested that should we be looking at our education system in light of the new technologies. My 4-year-old granddaughter, already sort of leverages Alexa a lot. She comes home and she asks Alexa questions, and in her own way. And the point is that we used to go to the library and look it up in a book. But is it relevant to her when she grows up to be able to go to a library and find information? Because it's already there. Okay, there are easier ways of doing it. So the question is, how should our education be reformatted, to prepare the next generation of hot leaders? And I think TEMS can play a very important role in that.
Oh, wonderful. That's a really good thought, and really appreciate your comments and remarks. And that's really very thought-provoking.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Suresh, for taking the time to be with us today.
Thank you.
And look forward to a continued engagement.
Thanks for getting me here. Thank you.